So we're here in Middle Tennessee again with Greg Murry, who is a artist extraordinaire, but one of his big things is fine long rifles.
Yep.
So he's a gun maker, engraver, all kinds of things, right?
Well,
so thanks for having us to your shop.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. I appreciate you coming.
We look forward to getting a tour of the shop and
all right,
sitting down and talking craft.
We'll do it.
All right.
So this is kind of where the magic happens. It doesn't look very magical, but you know, it's a shop. You know how shops are. Everybody else that does what we do, we all know what shops are like.
You know where everything is, and that's what matters.
Only when I need it. When it takes 15 minutes to find it, it's time to do a cleanup.
Only 15 minutes?
No, only 15 minutes, that's right. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, this is where all the junk is stored. This is my printing press. This is an old handmade, as you can see, for the intaglio prints. When I'm doing engravings for the steel canvas, the smoke print is the lost art of the smoke print. You know, before photography, engravers wanted to make a catalog of their work for references of design and all that stuff, and so they would soot the engraved piece and do an impression of it, and that soot would transfer onto the paper, and they would make a book of their engravings.
Very cool.
So after I developed the medium of steel canvas, I thought that I would add another element of sales for my engravings for the smoke print. And of course, this is where I do that. Very cool process.
Very cool. I've gotten into reading about that whole engraving process a little bit, in reading about like 18th century tool manufacturers' catalogs that are just filled with engraved, engraved illustrations.
And that's how they made a lot of those prints for the publications, was the smoke print, which was soot rather than ink.
Very cool.
So that's the press. This is where the cup of joe starts. My dad, he was oh man, sorry about that air compressor. You want me to turn that off?
Go right ahead.
So Joe was the inspiration of me becoming what I am today as an artist, and he was a very talented, hard-working man. He's the one that gave me the vision of what working hard means, and so every day I get to give him a little honor of of thanking of what I do.
That is awesome.
So anyway, this is where it happens. Come on into the magical place of creating my artwork. My drafting table. I'm working on a big coat of arms. It's going to go in a client's place in Memphis. And
very cool.
Lay it all out. Do the drawings, the artwork. This is the lion that goes on the shield. This will be placed on that shield,
that's really cool.
Like that.
All cut and engraved.
Yep, all hand cut. I'll give you a little tour of how the engraving's done. This is the engraving bench. It's always a mess. Organized I am not.
Look pretty organized to me.
So anyway,
Alan, do you see how he's got this ball-shaped thing, ball table, whatever it's called, ball vise?
Yeah, this spins.
And he can move that into any position he wants for the engraving.
When you're working under a stereo microscope, it magnifies. It makes a little thing like that look like it's really big. And when you're working through a stereo microscope, when you're making that little thing really big, you have to be able to keep the part that you're engraving center of this scope. So you have to have a table that spins like this particular spot right here. Whenever I spin that around, that always stays in the same place. So when I'm looking through the stereo microscope, I can always see it. And I'll let you sit up here in a little bit and show you what that looks like. And this is the engraving tool. You can see that little chisel, a little bitty chisel right there. When I push this pedal, there's a little hammer in here, a cylinder that goes back and forth. Like if this was a hammer, where I'd be tapping on that, this is a hammer inside here that's doing the same thing, but I can control the speed and make it real fast or real slow. Okay, so I can control that speed of how many strokes I want.
So all he has to do is just push that around on the metal, and he doesn't have to use a hammer.
That's right. So with the scope,
Here.
let me get myself position here. Let's see if you can get up in here.
Yep, I'm gonna put my foot on your stool here.
Yeah.
There you go.
See if you can look
Oh.
inside there.
I don't see anything.
You see that? Yeah.
I don't see black stuff.
Yeah, that's right. So for me to engrave, I'm going to have to move this stool. I hope I can do this with my boot on it. Let's see here.
Can you see?
And what I'm doing is cutting. That would be, if I'm doing a long run, that's a big piece that's cut.
That's a shaving that
That's
chisel peeled out of there.
right.
Isn't that cool? And all it is just lots and lots of cuts. You make up a design. Very cool.
And so what I'm doing is I'm doing the the basic cuts for the engraving, and then I'll start to do all the shading, so it gives it.
And this is a stylized knight head, isn't it?
Yes, correct.
Man at arms.
Yes, correct.
Isn't that cool? So he's engraving basically the
I'll
knight's
grab
armor.
I'll grab these two pieces and put it on there. You can get a better idea of what this is going to look like when it's finished. And this all goes together.
Oh, look at there. It's even his helmet has a visor on it. That's cool.
And this all gets riveted together, and then eventually goes on the big canvas. I'll show you the canvas here in a little bit. But, that's the progress on
Very
this.
cool.
And I got various tools, different tools. This is my hone for sharpening. The main thing in engraving is your geometry of your chisel point. If your geometry is not right, then your chisel's not going to cut the way you want it to cut. Once you've understood the geometry of your chisel points, then engraving starts to become a little easier.
Yeah.
There's master engravers and there's engravers, and I'm not a master engraver. I'm an engraver. Yeah, I guess I can't cover my mistakes as well as a master can. So that's the engraving. Where shall we go from here?
whatever's next.
All
Show
right.
us the gun room.
You can see here I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 5 guns here that I'm in the process of building. A 6. There's another one in the vise, and this is
The finished product.
This is the finished product of the. This is the reproduction. This is exactly what Andrew Jackson and his troops pulled out of the boxes when they were on their way to New Orleans.
that they bought. Davy Crockett's kinfolks.
His kinfolks, uncles and cousins were the manufacturers of the Crockett rifles at Ford C. Yes.
That is awesome. Such a beautiful, simple and yet refined rifle. And you said it's about
long.
37.5 caliber.
Yeah, well, we're building it. I'm building it in 40 and 50. The originals were 37.5, 38.5, somewhere in that neighborhood. 2 of the 3 that survived are rifled, and one of them is a smoothie. Wow. The smoothie is one of the 3 that was never converted to percussion. It's still a flintlock, which is really, really a big find.
But all 3 of the surviving Crockett rifles started out as flintlocks.
Yes, correct. Yes, 1808 to 1826.
Beautiful. And how long is this barrel? Because I know people are going to ask.
45 and 15/16.
Wow. So almost 46 inches.
Almost
long.
46 inches. The other 2.
That's on up there for a short guy like me to load.
It is. It is. Yes. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. It's amazing how steady it is when you get it out there. All that weight forward.
And that's where that tapered to flare comes in, because you're taking a lot of weight out of the front end of that barrel.
Right. So the barrel tapers from large to smaller.
Yeah,
and then
flares back out. It's all about balance.
Gives you the strength where you need it
Right, exactly.
without a ton of extra weight.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
And so this rifle in the bench is a work in process. You can see I've got the barrel in, the tang is in, the ramrod channel's cut. I've taken some wood off of the sides. I'm getting ready to drill the underlug pins.
And then after that, a very specific process of this part, and then this part, and then this part.
After all the parts are put on the wood, then you start doing the shaping, the architecture around all the parts. The parts give you a guide to where you want to take the wood off.
Very cool.
Yep.
Very cool. And see, this is yet another example. I just always like to harp on this point to people. It's like, it's not a huge shop.
No.
And yet, you've got everything you need
Yep.
to turn out amazing work.
Thank you.
You don't have to be in a huge, fancy shop to do it.
You don't, and it's not about tools. I mean, it would be nice. I would love to have a big shop
Yeah.
in all the tools.
Yeah.
But I don't. And so I learned early on, make do with what you have.
That small space forces you to focus
Yeah.
and be organized.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about organized. I mean, I don't know if I'm
Looks
organized.
pretty decent to me.
Right.
You haven't seen my shop yet, so. All right. And then out here you have your blacksmithing and welding stuff.
Well, I've got my now blacksmithing. I am not in your league, not even close. I only do blacksmithing when I have to, because so much of this gun work is outside of blacksmithing. I'll make the triggers, the trigger guards, all the components. I do the heat treating and the metallurgy and that sort of stuff. But I do them in multiples of 10.
Yeah.
And, I can concentrate in getting that done. And then the rest of my time is,
Fitting,
shaping,
putting things together.
and then the other artwork that I do.
Very cool.
So.
Well, thanks a lot for having us to your shop. And,
Yeah.
Let's go sit down and have a longer conversation, which will be on the podcast. And,
Sounds good.
And we won't have to limit ourselves so much.
Okay. Okay.